Hey, good morning. This is Brett here, waiting for Scott to join us. Not sure what's going on. He's probably got a phone call, whatever's going on there. Just to let me know I'm already live on YouTube. So, welcome, episode number 361, Odd Musings. We are live. So, I'm going to run the ad for Team Titans, and we'll take care of that right now. So, stay tuned.
When it's time to hire a real estate team to help you buy or sell your biggest asset,
you want a realtor who puts in the effort to train properly to help you win.
You want a team that works hard to understand the current real estate market.
A team that attends your home inspection with you and knows how to negotiate all the potential issues that may come up.
A team that works together on all transactions, making us available anytime you need your realtor, including evenings and weekends.
A team that understands what it takes to negotiate and win when there are multiple offers on the table.
We have been training for this moment. The moment of making your real estate transaction a success.
Who are we?
We are Team Titans of Real Estate.
Team Titans is ready to put together your playbook to win in this current real estate market. Call us at 586-232-5144 and ask for Scott or Jill.
Together we can achieve more.
All right, that's Odd Musings there for Scott. He's probably on a call about real estate, or he forgot to do the show today. I don't know. We haven't talked in a couple days, several days actually. So we'll see here. Get my coffee situated here. Chat with you guys for a while. Wait, see if Scott shows up. Because it is 10:03 a.m. here in the Eastern Time Zone in Michigan. Here we got a great day set up here. It's gonna be high 80s, back up to that humidity and storms after a few days of really perfect weather. Mid 70s, nice and cool. I was really enjoying the fact that it wasn't, just sticky hot sweat the whole day long when I'm out working. So I was enjoying that and all that stuff. Things that are new this week, not much. I've been working a lot as always. The shipped game is still going on pretty strong. We're hitting a holiday week. It's always kind of weird because you never know who's going to be ordering, what's kind of happening there. So, but I'm out there working on my days when I work. So I'll be back out on Friday again this weekend. So those in the area I shop at, hey, place some orders. Could use some tips always. And that. So, other than that, it's going to be Independence Day tomorrow. So the 4th of July, this is when the United States declared its independence from England. One of the things I was talking with Mom about, she mentioned that she saw where originally it was to occur on July 2nd. That was going to be the original day, the legal separation day. But because of the way things traveled, taking time back then, it ended up being July 4th where it all got taken care of. I know that the Jefferson's the main architect of the Declaration of Independence. He largely wrote it in isolation over 17 days between June 11th and June 28th, 1776. From the second floor, he was renting in a 3-story private home on Market Street in Philadelphia, now known as the Declaration House, and it's within walking distance of Independence Hall. Someday I gotta get out there. I'd like to check out the history that's there, for the real history, and then also see some cool stuff tied into different movies that have speculated around the history and stuff like that, like the Nick Cage movies that dealt with the Declaration of Independence. They did a lot of revisions on it. There's some things you agree with, don't agree with. And I can get deep into that. You can research all that on your own. And that, but Adams was one that predicted July 2nd, but it ended up being July 4th. So I think 4th of July just rings better than the 2nd of July. So I think it worked out. It was meant to be that way, that date there. So, and you go through and research on history on this, and you can see all the founding fathers, everybody, when they signed it, put up their own fortunes, and many of them came out of it a little more worse for wear on that. Some didn't survive, but definitely something like, here it is. It's Independence Day tomorrow, so hopefully you're celebrating with some hot dogs, hamburgers, maybe some fireworks. You never know. So good morning, Kevin. Kevin's popping in there. Kevin, you're working today, or you're on a break for the holiday or whatever, but good to hear from you, buddy. Some coffee. Looking forward to hanging out with Kevin. We're going to be doing the San Diego Comic-Con here. We leave in just about 3 weeks. Going to be flying out to San Diego. We are waiting for the actual shipment to get in, but that's scheduled to get in right now around the 12th of July for the books for Crimson Shadows. That is the collection of the first 4 issues. It is the kind of the Scott's director's cut version of it, because he went through and added pages to help flesh out the story more within those issues. And it's not anything that takes anything away from the issues if you have them, but it's definitely adding a lot more to it than what was there before. We all had a great time working on that book, and looking forward to having the finished trade. Going to share the Bardstone page here. Yeah. Oh man, I'm so excited for this thing here. So let me see, Bardstone. There is, shares that. Yeah. Cool thing is, Kevin and I are going to be sharing the small press table, so that way both of us have a chance to kind of check out the show outside of the tables, which are pretty cool. Scott said he'll be on in a minute, so he's taking care of what he was taking care of, so no big deal. I'll keep chatting and that stuff. If you've never been to San Diego Comic-Con, boy, it's an animal on its own. The first time I went was in 2019. I went out with Kevin and Scott. I was just there on the Pro Badge, got a chance to hang out, got a chance to experience San Diego for what it is from more of a fan perspective. And the thing is, it is definitely bigger than your normal Comic-Con. You see things in the main hall that you don't see at regular Comic-Cons. It's changed over the last few years as some companies aren't coming back out. Sideshow wasn't there last year, a few others. They've got a new map up, which is another thing I should bring up and share that too. I don't know if Kevin, if you know what our table number is, let me know in the comments, and we'll get that up there too, so people can know where to find us on that. Let's see here. There it is. So let me bring this up there. There's Scott. There's the pop. I heard pop in.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. Court Jester, I was just talking about trades. Are the trades close to be mailed out? No, we haven't gotten them yet. We're looking getting them in around the 12th of July. And then we will sort them, because we got to sort between the 3 of us. And Scott will be shipping those out as soon as he possibly can, as soon as we get them. Yeah, definitely looking to get those out to you as soon as possible. If they get in at 12th, I would say you'll have them out by August 1st, won't you, Scott?
Oh, the second I have them, that I will probably a 2-day turnaround for me to package everything and get it out. So let's say a week at the most for me to have everything out the door. As of right now, because this is our largest printing to date, and we actually had to get them printed overseas. So the shipment when you go cargo ship takes a long time. I was surprised how long, and that's, knock on wood, no issues have come up. So it will be arriving in New York in 2 more days. I've not gotten any notices of delay. So as of right now, it's still on track. My last update was end of last week, and it was still on time. So July 5th, they'll arrive in New York. It takes a while to unload those huge cargo ships. So it's not like it's out the door that day. They have a lot to unload.
Right.
And it takes a while. And then they're going to load it on a truck, ship it ground over to Detroit, where we will go and pick them up from there. So, and they're estimating the 10th to 12th for the arrival of that. So hopefully the 10th, that'll be even nicer, but we'll see.
All right.
Yeah. So how are you?
I'm doing good, man. How you been?
Busy, but good.
See, I was wondering how busy you'd be this week with the holiday. So yeah. I ran the ad for Team Titans. So that's already been ran.
Yeah, overall, this is a very slow time of week. It's just deals we have in progress and customers we're currently working with. Those ones we're busy with. As far as fresh business, this is going to be a low. We don't expect many new listings popping up this week, new customers hitting, things like that. But still busy just with the existing workload we have. So I got tied up in a phone call just before coming on, which delayed me. But yeah, we're here. Woo-hoo.
Well, good.
So I wanted to tell you something.
Yeah, what's up?
So I made the decision to catch up on Acolyte.
Oh, okay. So let's talk about that.
It's getting worse. The characters are somehow becoming more boring.
Okay, so you've watched through today's episode.
I did.
Okay. Here's the thing, and this is something I was going to talk about. The Green Jedi, Greenish Jedi, it's Vernestra. Vernestra, I looked it up, is a character through the High Republic book series and comics, so it's been around. There is backstory for this character. We've not gotten any backstory in this show to show how she's just been ordering people around and very flat. So
Everyone,
of course,
yeah.
So we today's episode, last night's episode, it was real quick, but we actually got to see her use her lightsaber whip.
Yes.
So I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool.
Yep.
But nobody cares because the character's not being developed in anything. I'm looking at this. I'm looking at this story going, okay, I'm still sticking to the entire 8 episodes is an hour and a half long. They're just like today's episode's half an hour. It was 5 minutes of content.
It was.
Because now we've got where the twins have flipped who they're with in a way. May was going to kill, Saul, because she pulled the knife out, but then he had her to the ship, and then he comes to realization that it's not Osha, it's May, which I was like, no, he would have I don't care how much despair he's in from the other Jedi dying. He should have known right away. He could sense it right away.
And how did he figure? Like the way he figured it out made no sense. It's just out of nowhere he knew. Like there was no disturbance in the forest, nothing. Like
they got him all upset and crying. And I'm going, wait a minute, this doesn't fit.
Yeah,
the attitude. I mean, a Jedi would be definitely upset losing people, but they would be on task.
The only thing I could think of is she reset her pip droid, and it now had red eyes instead of blue eyes. So was it that he noticed the droid was reset? Because he mentioned how you love that droid.
Yeah, I think that was part of it, and I think it was also a couple questions he said to her, how she responded.
Right. But the writing didn't really indicate anything. We're guessing what triggered him.
Yeah,
but there was nothing.
Because also he just stuns her.
That whole scene on the ship, if a good writer wrote the scene, could have been very suspenseful. Like, oh, is she going to get him? Not, and it just was. The acting was flat.
Yeah, it was. It's well. The thing is, and I don't want to blame the actors because it's completely from the writing. It's just like Mark Hamill in Last Jedi. He was horrible because the writing was just really bad.
Yeah,
and stuff like that. But I'm watching this going, oh my god! It got done last night. I was like, again, nothing. Nope. Yeah. No move. The only plot move we have now is Osha's with the bad guy. And I pulled up again the Forbes article. Eric has got it straight up. Eric Kane just hits it right every time in terms of the same things I'm thinking. And I don't know if you read the article or not today.
I didn't read that, but I've seen other ones of his, and I agree he's been spot on.
Yeah. So now we have May with Saul. So and it already set her up a couple episodes ago of flipping to the good side a little bit.
Yeah. But that should have had tons of tension and suspense. Didn't.
Yeah. Well, since we now have what's the bad guy's name again?
He's just a stranger.
Manny or whatever is what he goes by.
Well, that's the actor's name is Manny.
Yeah.
He goes by Quimar or something. Qimir.
That's right, Quimar. Yes. So he's got Osha now, but I'm looking.
And that whole scene was.
Yeah. Well, she wakes up. And she's basically she's on this island, and I thought the same thing Eric said here. It looked like the place that Luke Skywalker was at in The Last Jedi. It's that same place easily. They don't say it is. You don't see the same. I thought for a second you saw a Porg.
It said unknown planet. Yeah, on the screen it said unknown planet.
Yeah. So again, it's like, oh, I really like the place where he was. I'll just throw that in the script. So it felt. I was like, really? Yeah. You're trying to drag in this Last Jedi stuff is what they're trying to do.
Yeah, the only reason why I don't think it was where Luke was is Luke's was like this island in the middle of a vast ocean, whereas there was a shoreline and this other. So I don't know. I don't know if it meant to be the same place or not. There were no porgs.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they.
Yeah, Octo is the name of the planet. So. But again,
Luke,
they don't say this. Right? Yeah, where Luke was. Yeah, but they don't say what this one is. It's unknown planet, which was just stupid to even address it as an unknown planet.
But like Osha waking up with the enemy who just killed her best friend Jackie, and killed all these others, and she's just like, "Well, I'm just going to follow him around and watch him strip down and take a bath." Yeah,
what was the whole reason for that?
Like,
I'm sorry, in Star Wars, Lucas always said this is a kid's type. It's designed for people, it's the kids of all ages, and yes, a lot of us older men are really too, because we've been fans of it for the last 40 years. You know, we stuck with it because we love it, but you don't need to have the sexuality stuff. Didn't need it in the sequel series either. When you had, what's his name, taking his shirt off all the time. Didn't need none of that. And so they stripped him down, and they were hinting at almost like they were going to show.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I don't need to see his bare ass. I don't need to see his twig and berries. You know, I don't want to see none of that. You know, it doesn't fit anything in this. But he comes walking out of the thing. I'm naked now. What
I guess all those things went out the
I am
window.
unarmed and I'm naked, and it's like, dude, no, this doesn't fit, especially for someone of a proclaimed Sith.
Well, and the emotions of Osha, Jackie. They were even trying. I don't know what they were trying to do with that relationship, but it was at the very least a really good friend of hers, and she just got slaughtered, and she's just like walking emotionlessly through.
And it was a great character that should have been more prominent in the series.
Right. That with good writing, that should have been a very intense episode with the two being switched, the emotions and like him trying to draw her to the dark side, for instance. It was just so flat. I don't know. It's just so bad on so many levels. This show.
It feels like The Last Jedi in so many ways, and feels like everything they've been that Kathleen Kennedy and anybody she's got around her with that wants to do is they're creating really bad fan films. They say, okay, here's all my ideas. Great, just write it up real quick, and we'll just hit every one of those points. It's not plot points. It's stuff they want to see. It reminds me of a couple of Comic-Cons I know of where they were like, well, who are we going to have at the show? Well, I really want to meet this person. I want to meet that person. Okay, we'll just get all these crappy people that nobody cares about because you want to meet them and buy a pin. Right. You know?
Here's the other part, too, that the agenda people really screw up. Leading up to this, and she's backtracking in some of those comments now. Leading up to this, the showrunner was openly talking about how this was going to be the gayest Star Wars ever. All the people, all the actors involved were going to tear down the patriarchy. None of that's happening in this. This hasn't been gay Star Wars, which is what she was advertising.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think there's been one gay moment in the whole thing.
And the thing is, who cares? I mean, if you want to have a couple gay characters, I don't care. Tell a good freaking story. And there's no good story here because what they've got going on is you've got the whole twin thing, which they're not following through properly with. It's not going well on any of that. It's the worst part of the story, and that's the central focus. They introduce really good characters, and they kill them all off. Carrie Ann Moss's character, love to learn more about her. Killed her off. They made it sound like she's this current one, this Vernestra, barely been in it. She's just like, you go here. No, you have to come back here before you can go there. And that's it. And then she says, oh, well, there's a stress call. Okay, great. Well, get a group of Jedis and go out there and shows up. I'm going with you. The whole thing of them going to this planet to investigate this slaughter made no sense either.
Well, I feel like the whole, and this goes back to people are being elevated to positions without earning the positions. They don't know how to write because they never had to actually write. It's just they're put in spots because of, well, you did a bunch of documentaries about women, so we'll make you a Star Wars writer. Like what? How does that qualify them for this? And so I feel like the entire script was just bullet points. Like here's the bullet points of the path, and
that's what I said. It was all stuff they just wanted to see in there,
right?
And trying to fit some story around it. And the thing is, this is they take these twins, they separate them. Okay, know about it. We find out the backstory really quick, which was a stupid backstory. Find out May's the cause of all the problems on that planet, with everything that happened with the Jedi.
Yeah,
you know, the Jedi didn't kill everybody; she did it. You know, and it was all her because she didn't want her sister to go away, and she didn't like her sister anyways because they were at conflict because they are obviously yin and yang out. And then as adults, she also was like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna go kill him. This guy's with me because you know he's telling me how you gonna do it. I don't know. I'll figure it out." And then gets there and wants to turn herself in, and wants to become good all of a sudden and go back against her master. And now you got Osha who left the Jedi because it just wasn't fitting her ideology, and now she's back, but she's set up at the beginning to say, hey, no, she's not a bad character. She's a good, hardworking character, but there's no story to her. And now all of a sudden she's going to put this helmet on at the end, which is the Sith helmet. And now they're trying to insinuate that now we're flipping who's good and bad.
Right. And this also goes back to, well, you know, they keep wanting to try to tie it to Last Jedi. It seems like,
Yes.
like they did the same crap in that where, like, Kylo Ren just slaughtered Han Solo, which was a father figure to Rey.
Yeah.
But immediately after, it's like, well, we need a love triangle, and we need Rey liking Kylo, and they had this weird thing going on. It's like he just killed the person she saw as a father figure, who was his father, and she saw him as a monster. You can't just have this instant transition. And just like this here, all of a sudden she's like trying on the helmet, and it's like, well, I'm considering what this guy's saying, even though he just killed all my people. Like, it just makes no sense. And what they don't get, and this is where writing and storytelling comes in play. And this is where, like, Zack Snyder constantly fails.
Mm-hmm.
When you do a story based on outline and outline only, yeah, you hit these nice little notes, but it's the connecting lines is what makes the story good. It's the flow and the emotion and the connections that are formed between the bullet points. And they're not doing that. I really do think with the story that they've given us, had they turned that over to a really good writer, they could have made this a good series using the bullet points as the guide.
Yeah.
It could have been done.
Well, and that's the whole thing. So we're dealing with a showrunner that when you go back and look at her stuff, it's like there's nothing here that shows that she should have been jumping into this. She's done writing, she's done producing, but it's like nothing here that shows that she could handle this type of storytelling.
Correct.
It's and I mean, even her quotes here. I'm attracted to stories about people who created prisons for themselves and are trying to get out of them. Well, you're not really doing that here either. You're trying to act like you're creating these personal prisons, but you're not. And I just don't think she's a good writer. I mean, I'm looking at some of the stuff she's done, and it's like, okay, you did Russian Doll. There was a few years. She was a writer on that, but she was one of the creators, but it was not Natasha Lyonne and Amy Poehler, and that she just had to be brought into the fold. So so any good of that, I would say came more from Natasha Lyonne and Amy Poehler, who have more of a history of creating characters and writing that actually does work. But yeah, everything she's doing here, and then this Vanestra character, it's like, okay, first time I saw her in the thing here, who cared? I have not cared about her one bit until she used her lightsaber as a whip this episode. Yeah, and now I'm looking at going, okay, now we've also seen the back. They wanted to show the back of Kamar, and so it looks like he's been whipped with a lightsaber, or whipped anyways. He's got whip scars.
So I'm guessing she's going to be his former master.
I'm thinking she's his former / current master.
Oh,
that she's a
she could be the Phantom Menace.
Yeah, well, I think that's where I wouldn't be surprised if she's going right into that, which is like, okay, wait a minute, no, because Palpatine was able to hide it for the fact that he wasn't a Jedi. If you're a Jedi dealing with other Jedi constantly, and then you also become you're dark or Sith, I think they would have noticed something.
Yeah,
someone would have picked up on it. And of course, we got an allusion to, I have to go to the High Council now. And that's where Saul's headed, supposedly. Like, are we going to actually see some actual real High Council stuff? Or we can see this crap they've been talking about?
The only character, there's two characters I feel are being well portrayed. Mm-hmm. One was Jackie. I did like her as a character.
Yes.
She had actual emotions going. And I do really enjoy Master Saul. And I think there's something there that they could really have made work, but I think they're going to ruin it. I think they're going to make him the bad guy in that, because Quimar, or whatever his name is, I doubt he's using his real name that way. Quimar makes the comment to him. Saul says, "What kind of master hides their face from the pupil?" And he says, "I don't know. You tell me." So it's like, okay, that's an insinuation directly against Saul, I feel like.
Yeah.
So I feel like Saul and Quimar has a falling out somehow.
Yeah.
So there's that.
And they alluded to that Kumar is a lot older than he looks too.
Yeah.
We know that Vernestra is quite a bit older too, because of looking. I read up in the Wikipedia here, and she's been around for quite a long time too. Her race lives a long time. So this would not be unexpected with her race.
For who?
The Vernestra. So if she is the master of what Quinlan, whatever, Quinn, whatever,
Quimar.
a stupid name.
And that's the other thing. None of
it's,
these people are memorable, so it doesn't even matter what their name is.
Yeah. So so Vernestra, according to Wikipedia, and this is taken from, of course, the different books. She was born 248 years before the Battle of Yavin. This takes place 132 years before Battle of Yavin. So she would be basically 110, 112 years old. So she's been around for her race, lives a long time. It's
now a lot of it's just. But last thing I'll throw in, because I feel like I'm just bashing this, but it is so bad. Yeah. Here's what they keep talking about: who is the stranger?
Yeah,
I think we're getting the first Ren story. This here is from the comics. That's the first Ren. This guy.
It's a Knights of Ren.
Right, but there is the first Ren. The whoever's the leader is the Ren, and it can pass on from. It's like Darth. Darth isn't a name; it's a title. And this is from the comics. He's got a full headpiece on. Our guy here, Quimar, has a full headpiece. He wears a gauntlet on the left hand. Our guy wears a gauntlet on the left hand. He has a red lightsaber. He has bird marks on him. So I have a feeling they're trying to tell us the backstory of the Knights of Ren, is what I think is what we're getting. And that would tie us once again to the sequels, which Kathleen Kennedy so desperately wants.
Right.
She wants to validate the sequels.
Yeah.
So that's what I think we're getting. Just a theory.
It makes sense. I mean, that does. I mean, that would tie it. And again, it's a story element that might have been really cool.
Right.
But they're not going about it that way.
But even from a story,
what are they going to do? So what are they going to do? Now they're going to have Osha put on the mask. So
right.
now, so here's a speculation: are we going to get the next two episodes? They're big duking it out over the next two episodes, and then at the end, it's Osha wearing the mask, and she's the first Ren.
Who knows? Yeah, who knows?
I
feel like, but like even if you're going the Ren story, after the first. Episode 7 was great for Star Wars. I feel I liked it.
Yeah.
8 is where it fell apart. 9 tried to redeem it. It failed. But the Knights of Ren were a bunch of side characters that people were excited to learn about. And by the end, it's like they were just a bunch of nobodies and nobody. So,
well, as with what Rian Johnson did with Last Jedi and said he was doing, and they said it in his movie was. Nothing mattered, and they were killing off everything. So I included up through everything that was set up in episode 7 because they didn't care about it, and they were trying to restructure everything within this trilogy of a movie.
So when we have a group of people that we now know doesn't matter, do we need a backstory on? It's like a Snoke. Do we need a backstory on Snoke anymore? We now know he doesn't matter. Like once you invalidate something, you no longer need the front story.
Yeah.
So,
well, we're reading up on the Wikipedia here for this Ren. He takes place during the time of Vader because they go to Mustafar and they're confronted by Vader. So, so obviously,
but that's where I think though this is a backstory. That's my theory.
Yeah. So it doesn't and again they're going way too far back, trying to change things that had already happened, and that they say are in canon, which happened in the comics and. Books.
Yeah, I personally don't think they're going to keep the comics in canon. I think they're going to have the same issue Lucas had, is the more content you develop in canon, the harder it becomes to produce canon content because you now have to make sure you're connecting to all these things.
Yeah,
I personally feel like at some point in the future, they're going to declare the same as Lucas did, where, well, they're kind of canon-ish, but I reserve the right to change it at any time. And I think that's what they'll end up doing.
Well, I think that's what Kathleen Kennedy's been doing too along the way. Is she's changing what is canon, what's not canon, changing who's this, who's that. Yeah. And we got 2 episodes left, and I said, and reading through that Forbes article, it's like what Eric Kane says. It's like things he liked. He liked the Power 2 callback. Okay, well, we've heard that a million times. Really, that didn't impact me. The Kamar, he says he thinks is a great character. I think Kamar could have been a much better character. But they've not developed this character. We're starting to learn a little bit more now this episode, but even then, it's not a good character and what they're doing. As he said, this should have been a Sith-focused series. Yes. That would have made more sense.
Which is what they advertised it as.
Yeah. And
That's
it's
the
not.
thing. They advertised that this whole series was going to be from the Sith point of view.
Yeah. And then he liked the fact that May reset the droid. She thought it was cold as ice. I think it was stupid. I thought it was resetting the droid made no sense. And what made even less sense was the fact that Saul left it on her hip while she's bound on the cart. So obviously she's going to tell the droid to let her loose.
Yeah.
You know, if you go back and watch that little scene, it's right there. I'm like, he should have taken that off of her because she controls the droid.
He would have known that.
Yeah, and that was a stupid writing mistake or a stupid plot point they're trying to put in there. And then he did like the fact that the deaths were real. I'm glad they actually killed off the characters, but that's actually kill them. But they killed off characters that shouldn't have been killed off.
That's only matter when there's a connection to the character. So what point did they serve as a plot? As far as driving the story forward, they didn't develop the character enough for the audience member to get attached to them.
The only one we cared about was Jackie. That was it.
Jackie,
and then we get to see her again in here in this episode. We see her dead, and they made sure to do a close up of her.
Yeah,
because that's the only one anyone would have cared about, and it's a shame because that was a great character. That again, it should have been Saul and her, going to investigate this and then dealing with the Sith side of it, and not doing the whole twin thing is just ridiculous. Yeah. He liked the fact that Eric liked the fact that they're learning about cortosis. It's properties that make the Sith helmet so powerful. And he liked the fact Osha put it on in the end episode too. I personally thought it was stupid that she would flip like that and immediately just do that. So
I think that would have worked if it was May.
Yes,
I did. The fact that it was Osha didn't work for me. The other problem I had was with Saul. The fighting was over. He gets Osha. Turns out it's May, but he thinks it's Osha. And they leave. And he just leaves all the bodies there. They wouldn't have left. I don't think he would have left the bodies there, first of all. Second of all, then he leaves. There's enough time to contact their sub-council, whoever this group is, Venestra. And then they get a ship. They fly all the way there.
And they get there right as he leaves. They got there right as he left. I'm like, no, that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah. That was the same day.
Yeah.
I felt like it. Well,
the shot was his ship takes off, boom. Their ship come in, boom. It was in the same shot.
Yeah. Well, I got the feeling he was kind of like because he was trying to fix the ship or something.
Well, yeah, but they were still down there for a day or so.
Yeah. I just feel like the way
the crossing of the Jedis was the same time.
Yeah. The crossing, yes.
Yeah.
I'm talking about how long the bodies though are laying down on the ground. I feel like the woods of what they would have been like consumed.
Well, creatures should have come in and started just picking up, but they did.
They get down there and
they made it sound like it happened like 2 hours later. Again, that's not understanding.
But then that timeline doesn't make sense. How
because they were going to the outer rim from Corellia, so it's not Corellia, but the capital city. But they went to the outer rim, so it would not have been an immediate thing.
Yeah, but this is like same people who also gave us like a 10-hour hyperspace chase in Last Jedi, but somehow Rey went to a planet with Luke for 3 days while this 10-hour chase happened.
Yeah, and then you had with Rose and Finn going off to the gambler planet,
right? And then they get back in time too,
3 to 5 days, and
and
again they're not setting up proper time.
Yeah, I guess that's just doesn't matter. Yeah. Anyways, last thing I'll say is I was surprised though. I've actually drawn a picture of the actress who plays May and Osha before.
Oh, okay.
I didn't realize I did this. This actress was Rue in Hunger Games.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah,
and she's also the basis of the character for our friend Sebastian at Stranger Comics for his Niobe. She's the main actress there, and I've drawn the Niobe character before, so I've used that actress as reference before. I didn't realize it's the same actress.
I don't have a problem with her. It's not even how she's portraying the character. She's portraying the character exactly as they gave it to her.
Well, that's what I feel too. I think the problem is the writing and direction.
Yeah, unlike the third sister, who the actress was really not fit for that at all, and it came through in the way she carried herself in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. this one here, she's doing just fine because they're not giving her anything. There is no context. There is no depth.
Yeah.
She's able to flip between the May and OSHA character enough to you can tell the difference.
I don't know. I disagree. Even the actress said herself, they interviewed her this last week. She said she would forget during filming which one she was playing.
Well, hear me out on this. I wasn't finished talking. So you could tell there's a difference. The problem is both characters are, again, meant to be the same because they're twins, and they're both written so flat.
Yes.
That you can see just it's a slight difference. But even then, I could see where she would forget who she was playing. And I bet you the forgetting is more these last few episodes.
Probably, yeah, because they're flipping.
Not early on. Because she's flipping back and forth in a way, and she has to play May as OSHA, and OSHA as May.
And to be fair to her, shooting doesn't always happen sequentially. So it could be she's wearing the same costume, but playing two different characters in the same costume at different points in the story. Yes. So that would be, to be fair to her, it would be easy to forget.
Yes.
So especially when the writing is pretty much the same.
Yeah, and like I said, read that. Look up Eric Kane Forbes article. It covers everything we just talked about. And again, it talks about the whip saber mark on his back for that Kamar. Vanestra has one of those. Again, nothing, no real reveals. And again, he mentioned too, this is supposed to be a mystery. There is no mystery.
No, there's been no mystery.
Right
away, they've revealed everything. Quimar, everyone knew. It was pretty obvious he was going to be the stranger. It was, all the way through. It just, I guess the only surprise for me is since Kathleen Kennedy's connected and wants to make everything about the sequels validated, I'm just surprised they didn't have OSHA or May drinking from the boob of an alien like Luke did. That's all they were missing. They just needed that on there.
Right. Just ridiculous in that. So
I think we beat that horse to death.
Pretty much. I mean, it's just, and again, it's I don't know. It's the destruction of something that people have known for these reasons they say that are completely wrong. And it goes with everything. It's just like I ended up watching that new Zac Efron, Nicole Kidman movie. Was it Family Affair?
Something like that.
Yeah.
I didn't see it.
Yeah, A Family Affair. So I put it on thinking like, okay, this is something that if I fall asleep, I'm not going to care. I just wanted something on. And I figure I'll put this on if I feel asleep. I didn't care. Of course, looking up some stuff about Zac Efron, I'm looking and go, God, why the hell does he look weird? Well, he got injured, and so his face looks very plastic surgery fake.
They had to reconstruct his jaw, I believe.
Right. So I don't want to. I'm not trashing him on any of that, but he looks better when I saw him in interviews with a beard. The beard makes it look better. And that stuff. So, but I'm watching him, and then Nicole Kidman comes in. And she's had so much plastic surgery, she could barely talk like this. She doesn't really move anything. She can't really smile either. And I'm going, oh my God, it feels like we're watching something from some weird alien movie. And that the movie was stupid, by the way. It was all set up. That was right away. You knew exactly what was going to happen. There was no surprise, no fun. The Joey King character is the daughter, who is the assistant to this actor. So it basically felt like actors, portraying an actual actor, and basically just talking about, hey, look how cool our life is. But you have to feel bad for us. So we have no real friends and no real love. And I'm going, oh my God, really? Yeah. Oh God. So don't waste your time. It's not worth it. It didn't feel like anything. It was definitely nothing new. But definitely the story was just stupid. I mean, it was, she's going to get rid of her boss because he's not making her a producer, because he was going to make her a producer. Her mom was a very famous writer at one point, but now does nothing, but has money. And they have all these, again, another bad writing thing of here's some other characters. Here's some things that kind of happen, but they gloss over it and then make it seem like it's a bigger deal for like 2 minutes and then back to the stupid love thing. So it just wasn't any, as a rom-com, there was no comedy really, in my opinion, and really no good storytelling. And if people like it, great. But I personally wouldn't waste my time with that. And then the other thing I watched, I finally got a chance to see The Beekeeper with Jason Statham.
Oh, how was that?
Story-wise, again, I watched it more for the action, for the kills.
Yeah.
It was no real major. I mean, the basic story was he's going after Felicia Rashad plays this woman owns a house, and he's on there renting a barn and raising bees, and she gets scammed on her computer. Something pops up. She calls the number. They tell her to download this thing, and they show the call center. It's here in the United States, and because it's all Americans, and they basically are able to get in her computer and drain her accounts. And she was over this charity account that had over $2 million. So they drained that. And then she kills herself. So he finds her, gets arrested, gets released. Her daughter turns out to be an FBI agent, who's the one that set up her computer, by the way, because she said that while talking to the scammers. I'm sitting thinking, if your daughter was an FBI agent, she should have known better than to set something up where something could get in your computer. But that aside, the kills were really cool. The action was fun. He's basically, it is a not as cool, not as fun John Wick.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
well, and see, here's the thing with those.
Yeah.
They don't pretend to be anything but what they are. They're not like doing a press tour, like trying to act like we're Oscar level performances. They are a cheap, quick, fun 80s ish action movie. That's it.
Yeah.
It's just meant to be a roller coaster ride, and they embrace it.
And
they're fine with it.
And I think it could set up a lot of it could set up sequels that might be fun in different ways. And they had some actors in there that I'm like, oh wow, they had Jeremy Irons in it. He had a pretty good solid part in there.
Yeah.
He played a former FBI director. Josh Hutcherson was in that. He played the main bad guy. His mother is played by Gemma Redgrave. And she wasn't the bad guy, but they alluded to it at first. And I think it felt like a rewrite at the end to make her not the bad guy, because she's supposed to be the female president. In that, then you had a few other characters here and there. Minnie Driver was in it. She played the director, CIA. She had her American accent going. Barely used her. She's in a few scenes. That was it. So some of this felt like, okay, we're just gonna these people that they called in favors for. And Statham's one of the producers on it, so I have a feeling it was kind of his project too.
Yeah.
And that, is it worth watching? Yeah, it's free on Prime. I'd watch it there.
You got nothing to do. Good, mindless action.
Yeah. And it's a lot of what it is. I mean, he takes out everybody. Nobody messes with him. Basically, they try to, and some of the stuff you're going, okay, really? But at the same time, it is a movie. It's like John Wick. It's meant to be over the top. But with John Wick, where he was getting hit all the time, he really doesn't get hit till towards the end. So, but I like the basis of the character. I like the idea of what a beekeeper is. They introduced the current beekeeper, which he handily takes out. But I like the premise of what the beekeepers are. It's just basically this secret group, basically person that they call in when the hive is in trouble. I like how they equated everything to bees, and they're reading through this bee manual, and the main girl, which was the daughter, as she's trying to track him down, reads this thing and say, oh yeah, there's this thing called a queen killer. When the queen's not producing proper offspring, the queen killer will go kill the queen, and that's what they were referring to through the whole thing. So not watch it. It was a popcorn movie. So,
did you happen to see the Hellboy trailer?
Not yet.
Oh my God. I'm not going to play it right now, but it is getting skewered.
I saw that and I was kind of like, oh, do I want to watch this right now?
So I saw the trailer.
Yeah.
And I sincerely thought I'm watching going, oh, this is just a fan made trailer. The comments are just skewering this. The guy doesn't look like Hellboy. He doesn't, I don't know. He just doesn't, it looks like a cosplayer.
Yeah.
The whole thing trailer, and everyone's commenting, it looks like it was shot on an iPhone. And even the director made a comment like, well, we wanted to look low budget, so it has a horror feel. It just looks, I don't understand.
Low budget doesn't mean horror feel. Low budget means you didn't have any money to spend. You don't intentionally try to make it look less than what you can do.
Yeah, it just, I don't know. I am curious to find out what Kevin thinks. Kevin, here we go. Okay. So I was curious about Kevin's point of view because Kevin loves Hellboy. I just felt, a lot of people are unfairly, meant to get rid of that, are unfairly like, oh, it has to be Perlman. How old is Perlman? 80s?
He's always, he's up there, but he's too old now.
It's a lot of work to be Hellboy, and I enjoyed Ron Perlman as Hellboy.
He's 74, just so everybody knows.
Okay, 74. That's to wear a full blown rubber suit and action is that's a lot of work.
And it's been 16 years since Hellboy 2.
Yeah. So
and even back then it was not easy on him.
Yeah. So I don't know. People have to let go of the Ron Perlman as Hellboy. At some point, 16 years is enough time to reboot a series. Now they did try to reboot it with David Harbour. I thought look-wise, David Harbour worked as Hellboy.
I liked the David Harbour one. It wasn't great. Yeah. It wasn't Perlman. It was the different look. They were trying to go a little more towards how it was done in the comics.
Yes, and I think
not Guillermo's.
I think if they just stuck with Harbour and just said we're moving forward with this one, I think it would be fine. But I don't know. I just don't feel like this guy looks like he's Hellboy. He looks like a cosplayer.
I'll watch the trailer after we're done with the show. I've got it. I pulled it up on YouTube here, and it pops up right away. It says Ketchup Entertainment. I'm like, okay, that sounds like a fake studio.
Ketchup Entertainment. I'm like.
And then someone comments, "This is Dollar Tree Hellboy. This is Heckboy." And then here we go. And you're telling me that we're getting a low budget Hellboy horror movie written by Mignola himself. And then someone goes, "Sign me the F up." So Mignola wrote it, but it's like, what the heck are you guys doing here?
But so you got that, and like to Kevin's point, he mentions The Crow. The Crow looks horrid. What is going on with Hollywood that they are so they have created such a bubble for themselves? They have no idea what people want anymore.
The problem is they all want to recreate the wheel
in their own image.
Yes. That's all it is. This is, well, I saw this. I got great ideas. So I'm going to put it in Hellboy because I know how to do it right. And I'm going to do it my way. It's going to be completely different. And that's why everybody's going to love it. No, this is an existing franchise. Now, the thing too is
Mignola is actually part of this one.
Well, he wrote it. It's now the writers, though. If you look at it, the writing says Christopher Golden, Mike Mignola, Brian Taylor. So Mignola may have wrote part of it, and then the studio, because they have the rights, that took it over. Brian Taylor. So let's see who Brian Taylor is as a director. He grew up in the suburban wastelands of Southern California. That's what it says here on IMDb.
The wastelands of
Southern California.
Okay.
So as a writer, he wrote Crank, which is a Statham movie. That was actually not too bad. I mean, it was definitely not a great film. He wrote the High Voltage one. I like the Crank ones because I thought they were funny. Let's see. So that's the first thing he's credited for writing is Crank and Crank High Voltage. Oh, he wrote the screenplay, and screenplay says story as Taylor, Jonah Hex, which failed miserably. He did this series called Happy. He was a creator on that. Creator on a series called Brave New World. Neither one of those got past 18 episodes. And he did the screenplay for The Crooked Man. That's as a writer. As a director, he did two Crank movies. And again, those were fun because they're meant to be. They're stupid popcorn. Oh, he did the Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance. He was a director for that. That was horrible.
Yeah.
And then the Mom and Dad Happy and Out is as short as the director did in 2021. And again, I don't want to trash somebody because they're actually out there doing it and stuff like that. But again, you do one thing and now you come in and take a franchise and you're going to just completely change everything.
Yeah.
And say, well, I want to do it as a low budget. I want it to look crappy. So it looks horrible. Oh, I mean, I like the idea of more horror within Hellboy, but at the same time, it's like, no, make it look good. And I'm sorry, there's a lot of low budget horror films. They put their time into actually making it look good. It may not be great stories, but at least try to make it look good.
Yeah.
And I mean,
and I feel like though the David Harbour version lends itself to a more horror feel.
Yeah.
Than what this guy is, Yeah. I guess
I thought the David Harbour one was bad. It wasn't great. It was just okay. I mean, I've watched it a couple times.
Yeah.
And of course, here's a Variety article from December 22. Pops up right on this here. Harbor said, Hellboy box office has told him not to F with an established IP. There you go. I mean, they were trying to reboot it. This was 2019. It had a $50 million production budget. 21 million in the US was at the box office. So it flopped at 44 million. But yeah, to take an existing, intellectual property is what IP means for those that don't know. It's like, you need to, there's like we talk about with Star Wars all the time. It's, you don't go off from what they are. And if you try to change too much, you're going to ruin it.
Now, this particular one, it's called The Crooked Man.
Yeah.
It was a 3-issue miniseries by Dark Horse Comics. So I don't know how close they're sticking to the miniseries itself.
And that's where the Mignola writing comes in, is probably from that original series. But he probably had nothing to do with the actual production.
There you go. Yeah.
Richard,
it was Mignola and Richard Corbin for the comics is what's listed on the cover, at least. So I don't know if that's the artist. Probably Corbin is probably the artist.
Probably.
Author Christopher. Oh wait, the 3-issue miniseries has been adapted by creator Mike Mignola, author Christopher Golden, and filmmaker Brian Taylor for the big screen. I don't know. All I know is when I saw it, you know how it is now. There's so many fan trailers out there. You click on it, and like halfway through, you're like, okay, this isn't even real.
They've got the coloring of him all very light red. It looks really bad. It even says here on the screen rant, talking about, low production value, tonal differences. They mentioned like Mignola's involvement, but the thing is, this is how much is Mignola really involved with? They may have said, hey, we want to do this story. And he probably wrote out, okay, I'll write a script for it. Here's the script. And then they took it and they're making whatever. But even if they stuck to his script, if they're making it low budget, it's going to come across as cheesy.
Yeah.
And fan films, I see better fan films than some of this stuff out there.
Jack Kesey. Who is Jack Kesey? That's the actor playing him. That's Jack Kesey. Because, I don't know, to me, Hellboy has a look. And the face is just too skinny as Hellboy. It's doesn't look right. Whereas Harbor and Perlman have like jowls, or they've got a full, strong face. Like this guy just doesn't look that way.
Yeah, the hardest part with this is the fact that Perlman did such a good job as Hellboy. His voice is very iconic. And here Kevin talks about the Crooked Man is one of his favorites. And then Richard Horvin is one of the greatest horror artists of all time. But when you've got it, that's been the hard part. You're never going to quite capture what Guillermo did with, Perlman. But if they went in and said, okay, we want to take it serious, it's one of the things, if you got some people that are a serious director, serious writer, and can find the right actor, they could recreate it properly and go from there, but they're just not doing that. And it feels like, and it's like, even like when Harbor's saying, not to mess with existing IP, again, they're trying to put their own spin on things.
Yeah.
And
like, how do you look at this guy and say, that's Hellboy?
No,
like, I don't see it.
He looks like he should be what's that stupid skinny character we like for a while online, creepypasta guy.
I feel like he looks like he could be a good a good guy.
Yeah,
he kind of has a good guy feel to him.
He could have played Abe.
Yeah,
he's skinny. Yeah, he could. He's thin. But yeah, I'm just not seeing it. So
I think something with Hollywood has died as far as being able to connect with the people who their audience are. They have so separated themselves from their audience.
I think they always have. And when it comes to Hollywood, you have to find, if we look at all the stuff that works, it usually comes from it's we always talk Star Wars and that stuff, but you look at what Lucas did. Lucas originally wanted to do Flash Gordon. And since he couldn't get the rights, he created his own story, but it was him doing it. And it was his story. He went from there. Like it or hate it.
And it was a passion for the genre. And
it's a love of science fiction and the science fiction opera. He wanted to tell that type of story. You look at stuff that people like Spielberg have done. You even go into Scorsese. You look at what Scorsese's done with gangster movies. He didn't try to recreate older, he didn't even try to redo Godfather. He tried to create something within that genre that was his own. You see that with Goodfellas. You see that with Mean Streets. You see that with a lot of other stuff he's done over the years. Some of the more recent stuff I've not been as crazy about because I think he's trying to be too much, but it still is a Scorsese film, and that's what works. When someone else comes in and says, I want to recreate those films, but I'm going to make it my own spin, it doesn't work because they're trying to recreate what's already been done, almost exact. And that's where the problem lies is all these people say, well, if I did it, here's what I would do different. And and it doesn't work because what you should do different is take the premise of, I want to do a gangster movie. Great. Create your own. Road to Perdition works because it was a graphic novel, and the directors took that exact story and created its own thing and stuck with the grittiness that was that. It gets likened to different stuff out there. I mean, Miller's Crossing, stuff like that. But even those, it's not biting from those. It's set during the same time. So it's only setting. That's it. But it's actually its own thing.
Well, and I think the key there, what you're touching on, I think, is the word passion. Mm-hmm. Those people had passion. Even more recently, Tom Cruise, he had a passion for Maverick, and it showed. Acolyte, it was. I saw this is according to her words. I watched Frozen, and I saw this lesbian story underneath it all, and I wanted to recreate that in a Star Wars setting. So it's not that she had a passion to tell some story set in Star Wars. It was, I want to copy that.
She wants to redo it. She's one of the ones that were out there saying that Frozen was a lesbian incest story, because that's have to be because they're sisters. And she's doing the same thing here. She's creating this lesbian incest story, according to her.
According to her. I'm not seeing it. I think her writing was so bad she wasn't successful. but yeah, it's passion. So Hollywood, I think that's the key. There's no one left with passion. It's just purely, how do we feed the machine? We got to keep pumping content, and maybe streaming is what killed it, because much. I think
right now though, we've run into this time where so many of these younger people now coming up and making these movies and TV shows and that. They've not done any of their own creative writing and trying to create their own stuff. They're writing basically other stuff that they see and rewriting that, writing a lot of fan fiction or whatever else, and then you get someone like, we haven't seen in a long time. We haven't seen a Kevin Smith in a long time. Clerks, we're looking at 30 years ago, Clerks came out. You look at the late 80s to the early 90s, it was a revolution in independent filmmaking. Independent filmmaking. And you look at stuff that they came out with, is stuff that people still want to watch to this day. It's things like Dazed and Confused. It's still an iconic film because it had a great setting of, hey, this is what the 70s, this was this town in Texas, this is what they did. And you had you developed good characters within this 2-hour movie that people are liked watching them. They liked seeing these guys and interact over this one night. They weren't trying to be grandiose with it. It was like, hey, here's what happened. And then here's copy paste and degeneracy of modern Hollywood. And that's what a lot of it is now. It's just well, here's what works, recreate it. And it's the sequel problem. It's the problem Disney ran into during the 90s with the VHS era. Hey, we just released Lion King. Come out with 8 movies that are on VHS only releases. We're going to sell 1 billion of those. That's why we saw Cinderella 2, Cinderella 3, and all the Sleeping, all these stuff they were going after the fact on VHS releases that nobody cares about to this day because they were crappy stories.
But, I have a theory that's just developing in my head too. There's a quote, and the greatest obstacle to being great is being good. Once you hit good, a lot of people just say good enough, and they're happy with that success level. And it takes so much effort to go beyond good to become great that they just settle for good. We are in this age where, do you really have to excel to be great anymore? Look how many if you wanted to be at that level of storytelling 30 years ago, there were only a certain number of studios out there. Now with streaming and all this, you have this huge pool now where good enough is getting accepted. But also you go to a step below that. How many people who might have some talent at a younger age are now getting funneled into social media, producing content for quick clicks? They don't have to try to become great because they're making tons of money off of just good enough.
Well, and that's what a lot of that is, the quick clip stuff. They're losing
Right. So they don't have
storytelling.
to learn to tell a story beyond a 30-second clip.
I think it's something that we're gonna eventually see a switch on, and I liken it to music. A lot of the quick clips we're seeing in music of the younger teens, they're actually playing instruments. They're not trying to be these American Idol singers or voice singers. They want to play instruments, and I think that when someone starts to really take off, we'll see some of these great, new great bands that'll eventually start emerging. We'll start seeing that come out there. So we're gonna. I've been thinking we're gonna see in the next 5 years a really good resurgence of somewhere of the garage band era, which comes around every so often. We saw it in the 60s with the surf bands. We saw it in the 90s with grunge. And it's been other times in between there as well.
Well, also from a consumer point of view.
Yeah. And I'll finish my point after you're done.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, and then liking into movies, there is we're going to see some of these younger people that are going to start getting off these TikToks, stuff like that, and start getting. And you're seeing a little bit. They're getting into liking different stories and movies, and I think it's going to eventually we'll start seeing some of these guys come out and say, "Okay, I want to make movies with my friends again," and that's where it came from. I mean, from Spielberg's era to the 70s, 80s, when people were using 8mm film, 16mm film because they get it processed and making short films, we'll start seeing that come back around again, and people also want to start creating new things and want to do. It's going to take some time because Hollywood and that stuff and streaming, it's been like just get crap out there quick.
Yeah.
But if you look at the stuff they're spending, like Netflix spending big money on, Efron and Kidman, I read a little bit about it. I was like. They read it like, he went to the top of the pile because it was a chance to work with, maybe Nicole. But they both didn't sign on right away. I think what it is, they came back and said, hey, here's some money. Oh, we're going to get paid and I get to make out with her again. Okay, I'll do that. And that's what it felt like in the interview. And I was like, oh my God, they really didn't care about anything story. It just talked about a chance to work with someone again. And because they're named people, Zac Efron's a name, Nicole Kidman's a name, Netflix is going to, here's $50 million, go make this movie. And I think that the problem is we need to go back to what Netflix was kind of doing and they've gotten away from with things like Stranger Things, stuff like that. They were finding people that wanted to create good storytelling and they've switched it now to just got to fill content and we don't care, but here's all this money. Then they talk about how much money they're losing. So, and then like here, like Kevin says, when it comes back to the music side of it too, most music his teenagers listen to, it's all the 90s guitar rock. That's stuff they want to listen to. They're listening to actual bands. And the problem is that with the change in how both music and movies are distributed and how things get out there now, you have to fight through the corporate aspect of it. And the problem is as much as like bands no longer are going to have the record contracts like they used to get. Some still, we'll still get some, but they're pushing for, and I'm not bashing her at all, but like the Taylor Swift, we want to make sure we get somebody we can have that sells out arenas. Thing is they lost control of her and she went off on her own and told them all to go F themselves, especially when it came to the streaming side, which I wholly applaud for on that. Cause she wanted to make sure other people were getting paid, knowing that she goes, I'm fine. I don't need the money, but they got to get paid if you're going to stream them better than what you're doing. So she pulled all their stuff at one time. Same thing with music. If you watch, these bands out there coming around, we're not seeing a lot of new bands, but we're going to, because they're all smaller groups and they're all going through the club stuff now. So we're starting to see the club stuff start pick up a little bit here and there. And I think we're going to see that with films, that eventually when people start actually saying, hey, we can create films and start wanting to create their own unique stuff, then we'll start seeing some good movies again. Again, Stranger Things, I use that. Yeah, it was influenced heavily by the 80s, and they included some of that stuff, but the storytelling was unique in its own.
Yeah. Well, and if you look where the money goes to from the consumer, in all these genres, like you're bringing up music right now, the what's feeding fans is bands that are led by 70 and 80-year-olds. They're still selling out stuff.
Well,
People want to see that. It's real music.
It was funny because in the late 80s, there was the joke on all movies, TV shows, who wants to see these rockers after they're 50? And they're talking about the Rolling Stones. They're in their 80s and they're getting ready to tour again.
And they're still sounding great.
And they still sound good. The ones that don't, they retired. I mean, Bob Seger said, hey, I'm losing it. I can't do anymore. This is my last tour. And he ended. And I understand, I respect him for that. His stuff's still out there and people listen to it all the time. Yeah. But you look at, a lot of these, you got what, Def Leppard's out there still.
Yep. I see them in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Now they're with, that's the one with Journey, right?
Journey. Journey and Def Leppard, and then
Heart.
Steve Miller. Well, here it will be Steve Miller Band.
Steve Miller's here. They had Heart. Then you've also got Cheap Trick doing this. I mean, these are bands that came up through the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, me and my buddies in 4th grade used to love Cheap Trick. I still want to see them. I haven't seen them live. I want to see them live. I was so bummed when I found out they weren't playing with them here. But
and I like to see Cheap Trick. That'd be a good concert. But
the big studios have lost touch. People still want those things. They're not wanting the stuff being put out now. Comics. Mm-hmm. Who really cares about Marvel and DC anymore for comics? It's Kickstarter. People love the independent stuff. Yeah. Movie wise, a lot of these fan things coming out for Star Wars are far better than the actual official stuff coming out.
Right.
And I agree with you. So at some point, like with music, let's stick to that for a moment. Mm-hmm. As these bands age out, there's going to be a void, and the consumer is going to want to find where to put their money and reward those bands that are authentic.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and that's what's going to happen, because I mean, you watch some of this stuff and you hear a lot about the same people. You hear about the current ones. Always talk about. It's always Beyonce. It's always Megan Thee Stallion. You get The Weeknd, who's now changing his name from The Weeknd to something else because he wants to be known as more his real name because he wants to do other stuff besides music.
He's not The Weekday now.
Yeah. But it's I think we saw something with they get likened to Led Zeppelin, but Greta Van Fleet. That right there, coming out of Flint, Michigan, playing music, it had a similar sound to that late 60s, early 70s, acid hard rock. And they've taken it through some different genres in that. I think it's bands like that it's got to take off. They took off because of the fact that way they promoted themselves. I don't think they were meant to take off the way they did because the industry, I don't think, wanted them in terms of the publishers and that.
I'm totally blanking. What was the name of the musician that came out of nowhere? He was playing on the banjo type guitar in the middle of the woods. But he had that song that went so viral like 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. He had the short red hair, red beard, reddish blonde. I'm blanking on his name, but he was a complete unknown. He just recorded himself singing a song from the heart, authentic.
Yeah.
And it blew up, and he's just everywhere now.
Is it Billy Redden?
No. Let's see. 2022 music. I think he was like Kentucky. Unknown. Let's see. I don't know what to look
Oliver
up.
Anthony?
That's it. Oliver Anthony. He came out of nowhere, and he was huge, and he's selling at every platform he does. I mean, he's not doing arenas, but everything he shows up, things that will normally have like 1,000 people will have 4,000 people. It's been huge.
Yeah.
And it's because he sang from the heart.
Oh, and he's going to be in Saginaw on August 24th.
Oh, there you go.
I would
love
Tampa.
to see him.
Well, if you're in town, go see him. I'll be in Tampa for Tampa Bay Comic-Con that weekend. But I know who you're talking about. I've seen his stuff pop up here and there, and it's different ones. He put Sheeran. Do you mean Ed Sheeran, which is spelled differently? Sheer. But Ed Sheeran came out of kind of nowhere. Same thing. He was just putting stuff out there.
He's very talented,
and he can play a lot. Here he's kind of a dick, but that's beside the point. I like some of his songs. I don't like everything he's done, but I've liked some of his music. I liked him in that movie yesterday. So
I was just going to say that. I thought he did good playing himself.
I've seen several stuff. And I know how true it is. It's stuff like he gets in, he does it. And I think I like it more too. He may come across as kind of a dick, but he's probably a little more shy in real life in terms of people say stuff to him. So,
but also with him, he's authentic in that, he'll play. I've seen in interviews where they talk about how great he is at writing and what's the secret. And he's like, I sucked at writing. He goes, and he'll play this was my first song and it's horrible. And he's like, I'm good because I wrote 1,000 bad songs before I wrote a good song.
Well, he had the trial he had last year. Remember, he got sued for supposedly ripping off a song. And he played in the courtroom multiple songs for the jury that and he showed how they're trying to get him for this chord that's a chord in a million different songs. And he played multiple songs that weren't his that used the same chords, and it wasn't. They were trying to liken it to what's the one, the Marvin Gaye song that got ripped off? by what's his name? His dad died, but it was the TV dad from Growing Pains.
Alan Thicke.
Yeah, so it's Robin Thicke's song. Yeah.
Robin Thicke, there it is.
Yeah, his song. When you listen to it, it is the Marvin Gaye song. The entire song. They just changed what they were singing. And
or like Vanilla Ice with Under Pressure.
He got you by Marvin Gaye. Yeah, and that was the whole thing. It's like, okay, it's
there's a difference between a chord versus
and there's a difference between Blurred Lines. That was the name of the song. And there's a difference between sampling, which the hip hop community learned in the 80s you need to get permission for, versus just outright stealing.
That's like P. Diddy. He has to pay Sting, I think it's $8,000 per day, if I remember right, because he sampled without permission one of Sting's songs. So now Sting gets $8,000 a day.
Yeah, he gets a ton of money, and it's because the song gets played a lot. So it definitely gets that's where it comes from. He gets the majority of the royalties out of that song.
Yep.
But it's other song, different people learned, like, okay, you can't just sample everything and reuse it. It's like even people look at MC Hammer. Rick James didn't want to do it at first, and then they were like, okay, and they were gonna try to figure something else out, and then his people came to him and say, look, you're gonna make a ton of money off this.
Yeah.
All right, I don't like it. And they got the first check. Okay, I like it. And he made a majority of what he had was his money through the rest of his life was from MC Hammer. You can't touch this because they used that riff. And so when they do that, that's where the whole sampling thing comes in. But the thing is that we're just not seeing. I don't listen to a lot of regular radio anymore because I've not been hearing anything I liked. So I listen to a lot of Sirius because where I'm driving around it, I don't have to worry about it cutting out. But a majority of the stations I listen to are the metal channels. I like Lithium because I get a lot of the 90s grunge, Turbo because you get the 90s and 2000s hard heavy metal, and a lot of them play. And then of course I listen to Ozzy's Boneyard, and you get a lot of the stuff from the 70s and 80s. The AC/DC. Which did you see AC/DC back? I saw a video clip of Angus. He looks old as heck, but he can still move.
Oh yeah,
yeah. And because they're touring, I'm waiting for them to announce a U.S. leg of their tour.
The sad part is the best radio in my mind is now the oldies channel. Yeah. That's where you hear Metallica, AC/DC, Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, and again, we saw Kevin and I and Twist Kids. We saw Metallica here in Detroit, and they said, hey, as long as we sound good and you guys want to keep seeing us, we'll keep coming out and doing this. And they sounded great.
Yeah, when we saw the Eagles, it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
How they played. Like some of these bands actually sound even better now than they did because they're actually sober now.
Yeah.
Except for Motley Crue. They got very bad. Vince Neil has to go.
Yeah, Vince Neil's lost his voice. So they need to
he doesn't remember the words anymore. He sounds like Biden trying to talk.
Well, he's over. They're using backing tracks for him, which happens a lot anymore for some of these groups. But I was trying to see if I could see a clip of. I saw this clip pop up, and of course it was like a TikTok thing. But you see, it's just too many. They have a one half picture in that. So, but yeah, if you Google and look up for Angus, and that stuff, it was funny because I'm looking going, oh my god, I didn't realize how he looks like a ghost playing this thing, but
they have to rename him Angus,
here we go.
Not So Young.
I found an image. I'll open this image up. But if you see some video of him, here we go. Share this screen. That's him right there. And
it's funny. He still wears the schoolboy outfit.
Yeah. The one I saw, he had the tie off and he had the coat off, and he was doing his basically his Chuck Berry always did. Across the whole stage, and the clip I'm watching, he's playing and everything else. And of course, the comments are like, "What's he chewing? What's he chewing?" He doesn't sing; he's just kind of doing the words or he's doing the notes. When he talks, this way he's always done. And it was just phenomenal. I'm like, "Oh my god, I want to see these guys live again." I've never seen them, but I want to see them live now. And in that, so, but yeah, it's the problem is with music is they want to get to this formulaic, everything goes through all this computer stuff. And what we need is guys like these coming up, young guys that want to play. I don't care if we get a band that says, hey, half our songs we're going to do starting off are going to be like AC/DC and Def Leppard and all that stuff. And here's a few of our originals as we get going. because that's what they all did. They all played covers, to get started. So
that picture just made me think. Have you ever seen where they've done photos of guitarists holding giant slugs? And it makes the faces they make while they're holding their guitar, it just fits.
Yeah.
So there's all these pictures of guitarists holding giant slugs.
Yeah.
Cracks me up.
Yeah. Yeah. Bill here too. He listens to classic rock station US. Nirvana was classic rock. It's funny. It's I always talk about like Bowling for Soup and Dolly Ross because they are bands that actually play, and I like it. But the Bowling for Soup song, 1985, it came out over 20 years ago. It talks about Motley Crue is classic rock. It was classic rock 20 years ago, but they're still getting played all the time. And
that's what is the definition of classic or oldies? Is it 30
I think
years,
it's
20 years.
I don't think it's an actual year thing, but I think it's more like 20 years. I think it's also when it's far enough away from a change in music. It's like the we went from the hair metal era of the 80s into the 90s and jumped right into grunge, and it was a fast 6-month switch from that style of music. And then within 10 years, these bands were still touring a little bit in the 90s, and some are still around this day. But the flip to grunge music and alternative music become more popular. It caused people in the early 2000s to think, oh yeah, that's classic music because that's from the 80s. And a lot of it was like, you look at some of these bands like Slaughter and all that stuff. Yeah, they came around like 88, 89. So they weren't through the whole 80s. And there were some bands that came out in the early 90s that just never made it because the genre changed, and they were considered old.
According to this, it says when the oldies format was created in the 70s, the music used was the 50s and 60s, early 60s. So at that time, roughly 20 years.
Yeah, and I think 20 years is a good thing. So I would say anything from 10 to 20, depending on how fast the music changes. We went from in the 70s, you get a lot of coming off the hippie folk, and there was the acid rock stuff like that, and we started seeing in more hard rock and metal was starting to come up. You had like the Judas Priest and all of them coming out.
So that means like New Kids on the Block is oldies.
Yes.
Old Kids on the Block.
Well, they pretty much are. I mean, have you seen them out there? They're walking out with walkers anymore. And but the thing with like the New Kids though is they were able to stay not classic for a while because the resurgence of the boy bands in the late 90s tied them out as kind of the founders, but they were able to tie in, NSYNC and 90 Degrees, all those guys that were these bands that created Backstreet Boys were bitten off of all that stuff too. So
let's see top music in 2004, because that would be 20 years ago. Let's see what the top songs were back then. Let's see. Burn from Usher. If I Ain't Got You, Alicia Keys. Maroon 5. Maroon 5 is now oldies.
Yeah, they've been around for a long time. And they still get a lot of airplay. So
yeah. Ludacris, Little John, Evanescence, Nickelback qualifies for oldies.
There is a really good Nickelback documentary out there too. I watched it last week. The thing with Nickelback, people hate them, but at the same time, I'm like, they all sound the same. Yeah, a lot of bands are gonna sound the same everything they do. It was one of the things where they addressed it in the documentary, and basically it was because it's called "Hate to Love Nickelback" is the name of the, and it's on Netflix, so you can watch it there. And they addressed that. They hit it big, and they hit it. They were kind of having moderate success, and then hit it huge, like instantly. At the same time, social media is coming up. They got caught up in the MySpace, posting online, the hatreds, stuff like that. So that's where they got caught up in that.
They were huge, and all music. Once one group hits it huge and makes big money, all the other record companies immediately do searches for other bands that sound like that. So they sound. Everyone sounds like Nickelback because they did so good.
Yeah.
The boy bands. If you listen to boy bands now, it's very hard to figure out which one is NSYNC, 98 Degrees, New Kids on the Block, unless you know the specific songs are them. Just hearing them, they sound alike.
Yeah.
That's all bands. You go back to the Motley Crue days, all the hair bands, a lot of them sounded alike because the studios are looking for that sound.
Right. And that's kind of what it was. And, again, you're going to see a lot of, some of these bands here, like, wow, they're putting off like 15th or 20th album, but you only know like 2 or 3 because those are the ones that really took off. I mean, you look at like the Rolling Stones. I mean, people know all their classic stuff from the 60s, 70s, a little bit of 80s. A couple songs took off, but they put out albums every so often, nobody cares. I mean, it's just like any band. Once you get to a certain point, it doesn't matter what you're putting out new as much as people want to hear your classic old stuff. And that's what they go. That's why they go to tours and like, hey, we got some new album, and here's the old stuff.
Yeah.
No, I saw Primus 2 years ago. Hey, we're gonna do a bunch of classic stuff you guys are gonna like, and then we're gonna there's new Goblin themed album they did based on this children's story. It was pretty cool. It's fun because they do it. They're seeing them live is a completely different thing when they do that. Basically, they play the entire album straight through.
Right.
That's themed. It's that way. But they had their classic stuff they played too. And that's what you're gonna see. It's like even Metallica, they played mostly all the stuff everybody wanted to hear. But they even played some stuff like the one song, I forget what it was, Kevin probably know. It was like, yeah, this is a song from your favorite album. It was an album that bombed in the early 2000s. And the song was good, but it's just, again, album bomb because nobody wanted to hear it. They wanted to hear the Black Album. Yeah. They wanted to hear other stuff. So it's things like that. And I think that's, with those classic bands. But I think we're going to see more research in music first. I think that's where we're going to see a lot of it is. Because I noticed a lot of these, like with Kevin's kids, and I see them at different concerts, stuff like that. They're getting into the music, and it's, and the thing is, they're looking for this good music. It's like video games. A lot of kids I see at Comic-Con, all the video games. Oh yeah, what are you playing? Call of Duty. Like, no, I've gone back. I'm doing old school stuff. I'm going through old RPGs. I'm going through old Nintendo, Super Nintendo games.
Yeah.
That's what they're learning. That okay, it's not all about these flashy graphics. I want good gameplay. Music. They want good music. Eventually, they're getting to the point they want good storytelling. And I think we're just seeing these little pockets start to happen, and it's going to be up to this next generation of kids coming up, teenagers, to want to create something and not be political about it too. Because that's the biggest mistake I see is when I hear these in the last 20 years doing Comic-Cons, people that were in their teens, early 20s, talking about I want to go out and do social justice stuff. It's fine. You can definitely have whatever platform you want. You need to learn how to tell a good story. And if you're going to do music, you need how to play good music, and the AI stuff people are worried about. I think it's gonna be there. There's gonna be things being used as a tool, but people are gonna really get away from it fast and start creating more. And that's why everybody should keep following us here, Odd Musings, for our Bardstone comics, because we create our own stuff.
We do.
Yeah. And then last thing Bill here had was he got to see the Who about 10 years ago. It's the best 3-hour show he'd ever seen, and he doesn't know the Who music very well. So I think that's cool. So yeah, hey, check stuff out. We've gone way over. Of course, Scott got on late, but that's okay. But hey, join us next week. Enjoy the 4th. Be safe this weekend. Don't blow off any fingers, toes, heads, eyes, or whatever. If you're going to be firing off fireworks, grill something fun if you want to grill something, or go out to eat because there's some restaurants still open.
Keep all 10 fingers intact.
Yeah, don't worry, you'll be fine. Yeah, see, you can survive. All right, people. Hey. We'll see you all next week. Enjoy. What?
Oh, I said thanks, Bill. He said like and subscribe. Thanks, Bill, for subscribing.
Thanks, Bill. Appreciate you, man.